The Badge to the Bone podcast contains adult language, mature themes, psychological nudity. Viewer discretion is advised. The opinions expressed here are ours and ours alone. Buckle up.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Badge to the Bone. I'm Denny.
I'm Al.
We have another great episode, Al. Man, I'm psyched. How about you?
Oh, this one's going to be good.
All right, buckle up because this is great.
I'm giving up on society, up on my family, up on your social disease. I'm giving up on the industry, up on democracy.
Al, are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm a little nervous because we got a big guest today.
Yeah, I'm super excited. Super excited. So, we said last episode who we got, but man, we have Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman about to be on the show right now.
I'm just honored, impressed, humbled that he came on our scrappy little podcast, which is just great.
For those in the first responder community that aren't familiar with the Colonel, maybe you've been living under a rock, or you're stuck in a cave somewhere, or maybe you've forsaken any form of communication, but you should be familiar with him. His work, his books, are huge in not only just the military community, but the first responder community.
Oh, absolutely. Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman is a prolific scholar, author, speaker. He's a former professor of psychology at West Point, also a professor of military science. Almost 30 years ago, he founded a new field of study known as force science, more commonly killology. He sought to advance the understanding of killing and combat, the psychological costs of war, the root causes of violence, the process of healing those victims of violence. He's authored 9 nonfiction books, including his most recent one on hunting, 5 fiction books, along with numerous articles and journal contributions. He was and I found this out, I didn't know this, he was an expert witness for the prosecution in U.S. v. Timothy McVeigh.
Oh, wow. Well, yeah, I didn't know that. That's awesome.
His book on killing has sold over 500,000 copies worldwide. It is on the required reading list of the United States Marine Corps Commandant and the FBI Academy, as is his book on combat, as well as being on the reading list of numerous other academies and colleges. His book, The Warrior Mindset, Mental Toughness Skills for a Nation's Peacekeepers, which he co-authored with a Dr. Michael Ass and Lauren Christensen. This applies sports psychology and performance psychology to military and law enforcement. I think this is, I love that concept personally.
Oh, yeah.
And finally, he's presented before some really prestigious organizations, the American Medical Association, the American Psychiatric Association, the American Psychological Association, and the American Academy of Pediatrics.
Yeah.
He's been everywhere.
Everywhere. That's a pretty impressive list.
Yeah.
So, that's part of why we're so excited to have him. I've attended the Bulletproof Mind seminar. Mm-hmm. It was fantastic. I've read several of his books. They're all fantastic. They were recommended to me by, folks in my agency when I was there, and, read the first one, read on killing. I was like, wow. So then it went from there. But
it's safe to say that he is probably one of the great allies of law enforcement and public safety.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. He does so much to try to better the first responder community. So, but you know, I mean, Al, he's here with us. So
Yeah.
awesome. Colonel, welcome to Badge to the Bone. It is so great to have you here with us today.
Denny and Al, it's good to be on board with you guys. First off, I love the name. I mean, this is such a great name.
I
And that's really
appreciate
what it's all about. The people who are truly badged to the bone, the people who are the true sheepdogs, the true protectors, and who hang in there in this dark and desperate hour. And I'm honored to be on board with y'all.
Well, it is an honor to have you, sir.
Wow.
So I guess Al, to kick it off here, we want to talk about the state of where things are right now.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, it's kind of a tough time.
Colonel,
I
where
think the
are we?
first
I
step-
mean,
Yeah.
we've had, I guess if we look back, maybe 8, probably almost 10 years of a lot of negativity in the law enforcement profession. And what do you think is causing that, and how do we get out of it?
Well, let's talk about this because that's really important. Let's make that kind of the end state. Let's begin by looking at just how desperately bad this situation is. Medical technology is holding down the murder rate. Every year they tell us a murder rate without allowing for medical technology. Now, imagine if somebody said, well, your grandpa made 25 cents an hour. You make $25 an hour. You're 100 times better off than your grandpa. Well, we immediately see the lie here, something called inflation. But when people say, yeah, the homicide rate exploded like we've never seen before, but it's still not quite as bad as the 1960s, your BS meter should be going off. Tourniquets
Yeah.
alone. Today every cop carries a tourniquet. 20 years ago, 10 years ago, nobody carried a tourniquet. Cop slaps on a tourniquet, saves a crime victim's life. We prevented a murder. And tourniquets alone have cut the murder rate in half in just the last decade. The leaps and bounds of medical technology year by year, 911 systems, the golden hour, getting them there in that time, the triage, all of the incredible stuff that we learned in 20 years of war, the life-saving dynamics, the probability of being killed by a wound in this war versus the Gulf War. Not way back, I mean just the Gulf War.
Right.
The probability of being killed by a wound is half of what it was. We cut the number of dead soldiers in half with medical technology just between the late 1990s and the mid 2000s when the war began. So they're lying to us. And I presented over 100 universities and colleges. I'm the guest criminal justice presenter. And I say, the entire field of criminal justice is absolutely flawed. It's like economists who never mention a dirty thing called inflation. I mean, this is bizarre. So with all that said, let's talk about what's happened recently. And I want to hold something up for you to take a look at.
Yep.
And this is the number of people murdered in America. And in 2006, we had 17,000 Americans murdered. And then by 2008, it was 16,000. 2009, 15,000. 2010, 14,000, 14,000. And then in 2015, 2016, it exploded like nothing we've ever seen before.
Wow.
Now,
Yeah.
I presented this to the American Sheriff's Association just the year after that happened. I had 400 sheriffs in my audience. I said, Sheriff, how many of y'all knew this? Nobody. If this had been the stock market, we hear about it every day. It was interest rates or inflation rates, we'd hear about it. We'd hear about it once a month. How in the hell could we have this explosion of violence? But what was happening, 2015, 2016, the FBI guys put this data, they call it the Ferguson effect. This twisted, sick, distorted misrepresentation in the media that the cops are the bad guys and the criminals are good guys. No civilization can survive that. No civilization can survive when their citizens have been taught that the cops are the bad guys and the criminals are the good guys. And yet they believe that. We'll talk in a few minutes about why they believe that. But let's zoom out now. That was the Ferguson effect. Let's take a look at the Minneapolis effect, the George Floyd effect in 2020. We have never seen anything remotely like what happened. Now, here is the New York Times. New York Times said there is no precedent for what happened in 2020. So this is the year-over-year increase, decrease in homicides. And this year, during the 1960s, it went up and up more, and this much more, and this much more, and that much more. And the 60s were bad. Little downturn. Well, if we allow for medical technology, it ain't so good at all. Now, here we are in the 80s, down, up, but if we allow for medical technology and so bad, and here we are in the 2000s or in the late 1990s. We brought it down. No, it just didn't go up as much. And then we move along. Here's the Ferguson effect. See that? There's the Ferguson effect.
Yep.
And there's 2020.
Wow.
And if 2021 has stayed the same bad, 2021 up another 4%. We have never, and it began in May of 2020. It's the George Floyd effect. This twisted, sick, distorted media misrepresentation of law enforcement. They're all criminals. Are Jean Valjean in Les Mis stealing a loaf of bread to feed his family, and the cops are all Inspector Joubert and evil people hunting them down. The senator who was elected from Pennsylvania said he was being attacked for letting people out of prison. He said, "You don't understand. They're all Morgan Freeman in Shawshank Redemption. They're all Morgan Freeman. They believe that." So the media has this blood on their hands. But here's the key. Let's talk about cops murdered in the line of duty. Folks, in 2021, we had an all-time record number. If we ignore 9/11, if we set aside cops murdered in 9/11,
Sure.
2021 is the all-time record number of cops murdered in the history of our nation. We've never seen anything remotely like this. At 2022, it went down a notch, and the cops in the street are telling us, we just don't go to that part of town no more. We know how to hold down the number of dead cops. Don't go to that part. Why should I go to that part of town? I'm being ambushed, murdered, executed, hunted down. We just don't police that part of town. It's easy to bring the number of dead cops down. Just don't go there. So we have, in major cities across America, for all practical purposes, no-go zones. And for every dead cop, 5 dead cops in Dallas, I will show you case after case where they tried and failed. These are desperately bad times. Homicides have exploded. And let me give you an angle on this. Now, this goes way back, and it's important. My book, Assassination Generation, I was invited to the White House as part of President Trump's roundtable on violent video games. I had a chance to give one book to the president. This is the book I gave to him. All the stuff I'm telling you is in here. And then I was invited back to brief Vice President Pence. Again, I had a chance to give one book to him. This is the book. And by the way, Pence asked a very intelligent question. I told him about the murder rate being held down by medical technology. Very gracious, impressive man. Vice President Pence said, "What about the aggravated assault rate?" I said, "Sir, it's too easy to fudge that data. Where do we draw that magic line between egg assault and simple assault?" Cops will tell you, we make egg assault say whatever you want it to say. But dead is dead. Murder is pretty good data, although you can fudge murder. We had a lot of suicides last quarter. Oh, how that happened. we can fudge the murder data, but in general, it's pretty good data if we allow for medical technology. So the situation's desperately bad. And then this record number of cops murdered in the line of duty, it is straightforward, but go back. And here's the key. When you're 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, what you see in movies, what you see in real life, what's on TV and video game, and what's in your dreams are all jumbled together. You can't tell the difference. With adults, sometimes dreams and real life get jumbled up. My son is pushing 50 now. He asked my wife a while back, he said, "Did I tell you that? Or did I just dream it?" She said, "Oh, you must have dreamed it. I don't remember." You ever been there as adults?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. With children, they are incapable of telling them apart. Dreams and real life and movies. So when they see the movie, it's real. Now, right up to the early 1960s, Hollywood operated by a code. And the code said, we know the stories we tell have an impact on our society. And we know we have a responsibility to tell stories that have a positive impact. And a lot of the code could be said in 3 words. Crime doesn't pay. Criminals will not be depicted in a positive manner. Law enforcement must not be depicted in a negative manner. And then in the early 1960s, they threw the code away. They said, we have no responsibility to the stories we tell your children. We have no responsibility. We have no impact. But a 30-second commercial will change the behavior of millions of people. But the years and years of sick stuff fed your kids will have no impact. So I give people an example. We all remember Jaws. And Jaws, the movie, terrified a generation. And today, sharks are an endangered species. It's a right of manhood to go out and kill a shark. And who wouldn't want a big set of jaws up on the wall there, So we have taught a generation of children to hate and fear cops. You know,
Mm.
I think one of the most evil movies ever made might be Denzel Washington in Training Day.
Oh wow.
Denzel, a beloved black actor, plays a corrupt, violent cop. Well, I've seen Training Day. Denzel's a bad cop. They're all bad. So what sane, rational person could support defund the police? What kind of person would think if we got rid of all the cops, it'd be all better? I'll tell you who. They were 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They watched Training Day. It was real to them. Cops are evil. They've seen cops do evil things. They've seen the bad guys are the good guys. No civilization can survive when we tell our citizens and we tell our children that the cops are the bad guys and the criminals are the good guys. So the media has this blood on their hands. New York Times says there is no precedent for what happened on 2020. So why did they bury it on page 5 of Sunday Supplement and never mention it again? In this headline news, should this be headline? If it bleeds, it leads. No, they're hiding it. They are systematically, intentionally hiding it because it points the finger back at them. And until we get this under control, it's going to keep spinning down the toilet. This is bizarre. You cannot raise a generation who've been taught to hate and fear police. And now we've got a record number of cops murdered in the line of duty. Remember Jaws? Sharks are now an
Yep.
endangered species. And then we've taught a generation to hate and fear cops. We have a record number of dead cops. And when we showed George Floyd on TV night after night after night, when we showed the Ferguson, don't shoot, hands up, when they perpetuate this myth, this lie, I can tell you how many people the media killed with the Ferguson effect. I'll show you how many they killed. Between 2000 on 2016, it was 1,722. The following year, that much plus 1,367 the following year. It stayed there. Add up the number of people, about 4,000 or 5,000 murders that are directly at the hands of the media. This sick, twisted misrepresentation of law enforcement, folks. We're not fighting crime. We're fighting the entire media juggernaut who believes their own stories and believes their own lives. And they think if we empty all the prisons and turn off all the laws, it would be a good thing. And they have the blood on their hands and they're pointing the finger everywhere else. Oh, it's the evil guns. Oh, it's the evil cops. No, it's them. And they know it. And they're doing everything they can to point the finger somewhere else.
Well, what was so, just shocking, disgusting, whatever,
Yeah.
was when the whole Ferguson thing came out, that the narrative that the media had perpetuated throughout that entire thing was not borne out by the evidence, was
No.
not borne out by the
No.
forensics.
Not fact based.
It was not fact-based at all,
Yes.
and yet nothing changed. It was
This
a
is
blip, and they
sick.
kept going on.
Yes. You know, in the 1970s, we had what were called cluster suicides. There was a suicide in a high school. The media reported it. There'd be a bunch more suicides. And what the media conspired, they all got together. They said, okay, we're not going to report suicides, but we're not going to tell anybody we're doing it, and we're not going to admit we're doing harm. It's the most cowardly, gutless, puke thing in media could possibly do. What kind of reporter transforms the way they report suicide but won't report on it? The twisted, sick dynamic of refusing to accept responsibility. And so now we've got this breakdown of our civilization, this idea that shoplifters can walk in and clean out a store and that's their right, that you can't stop them, you can't use violence. You know, try that in a small town. There's parts of America that they're not going to put up with that. There's sheriffs that say, you come in and ransack our place, we're going to shoot your ass if you don't surrender. There's people across America that's still upholding that law and order, but whole portions of our society have been broken by this woke madness. And come back to the woke academic dynamic. Their goal is to deconstruct the family, deconstruct our nation, deconstruct our faith. What does deconstruct mean? Destroy. Break it down to its component atoms, build it back up again with, of course, them on top. So this dynamic, we are in a battle for the soul of our civilization. And the question becomes, why do we stay in the fight? Why do we hang in there? And here's the answer. There have been other hard times. And I'll tell you, we have never seen levels of violence like this since the American Civil War. The violence of the Old West is a Hollywood myth. In our 200-year-long war against the Native Americans, that was war, and there was a lot of violence. But the day-to-day violence in our cities in the Old West, the gunfight at the OK Corral wouldn't make the state news today. We are in stunningly violent times. And this American Civil War, or maybe the Revolutionary War, to get a feeling for how bad it is. And one of the darkest hours of the U.S. Revolution was the winter of 1776. The Continental Army, George Washington's army, was a volunteer army. They could leave anytime they wanted to. And when winter started falling on, they just left. And of course, a small corps stayed there. Bloody footprints in the snow in Valley Forge is real. A small corps stayed there. But Thomas Paine, in these darkest hours, in this time of the winter of 1776, Thomas Paine wrote these words: "These are the times that try men's souls." Stop. Your soul's on trial. You're being judged. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will shrink from their responsibility in this hour. Are we water soluble, solar powered? Are we sunshine soldiers? When things get bad, we quit? But he said, those who answer the nation's call in this hour deserve the thanks of all men and women. And we have this consolation: the more difficult the battle, the more glorious the victory. So I want you to understand that you are men of the ramparts in a dark and desperate time. And this is evil, death and destruction, murder. I begin all my presentation with the Pledge of Allegiance. And we stand and say the pledge, and I say, what are the last three words you just said? Justice for all. And justice for all. This is a solemn, sacred pledge. So why do we hang in there? Honor those who moved on, but honor those who stayed in the fight in this dark and desperate hour and continued to contribute like y'all are doing with this podcast. But folks, why do we hang in there? Well, I'll tell you why I hang in there. I am, next week, I will be 67 years old. I retired from the Army after 24 years. I've been on the road doing this for 26 years. And waiting at home for me across all these years is my bride of 48 years, my high school sweetheart. She was 15. I was 17 when I proposed to her. I tell people we are from Arkansas. 2 years later, she married a crazy Army paratrooper. And she's been in this ride with me for 48 years. And yet, I love her more than life itself. And yet I get home 1 or 2 nights a week, 67 years old, 1 or 2 nights a week, conjugal visit, clean underwear, back on the road. Because we love our children. We love our grandchildren. I got a grandson in the Army now. In the blink of an eye, I'll be a great-grandfather. And we believe if we love our children, we love our grandchildren, we love our nation, we love our God, we will give 100%. That's what love means. I began my presentation by writing evil up there on my easel. I said, what's the opposite of evil? The opposite of evil is love. Evil is absence of love, just as darkness is absence of light. And we defeat this evil with love for our family, love for our God, love for our way of life, love for our nation. The love, I tell people, maybe one of the 10 saddest country western songs ever written. Kenny Rogers, You Picked a Fine Time to Leave Me, Lucille. Remember that one?
Yeah.
You picked a fine time to leave me, Lucille. 4 hungry children and a crop in the field. I've had some bad times, lived through some sad times. This time the hurting won't heal. You picked a fine time to leave me, Lucille. Boy, that rips your heart out. The idea of a mother abandoning 4 hungry children, it just tears you. Look, you got a sick baby. You got to abandon your family. Oh, sick baby. Didn't sign up for that. I'm out of here. No, you got a sick baby. You'd start a Kickstarter fund. You empty the bank account. Maybe you or your spouse would quit their job and stay with the kid full time. That's what love means. Love means the harder it gets, the worse it gets, the harder we fight. So I tell you, if we love our way of life, if we love our nation, if we love our God, if we love our family, this is the time to give 100%. We will make it through these times. Now, we saw kind of a similar thing pre 9/11, post Rodney King. Pre 9/11, some of us remember the Rodney King incident, and some of us remember what it's like being cops pre 9/11. Recruiting was so bad that they were waiving felonies to get people to be cops across America, waiving felonies. Well, I heard that Illinois is doing the same thing now.
Coming
and
first.
we probably, some of us remember the Rampart scandal, Ramparts Division, LAPD, executive summary, page one, number one, Rampart scandal. We probably shouldn't have hired a cop with a felony record. So folks, I want you to think about this. What happens if there's no doc there and you have a heart attack? Well, you're probably going to die. It happens all the time. What happens if there's no cop there and somebody's attacking you? Well, it happens all the time. But what if there's a bad cop there and they do stupid stuff and it's caught on camera? Folks, better no cop than a bad cop. We must not lower the standards. So the guy that the Army won't take because he got asthma, we'll take it. The weight standards, come on, grooming standards, tattoo standards, we can waive that. But the background check and the polygraph and letting people in who are convicted felons to be cops, that's insanity. We must not lower the standards. Better no cop than a bad cop. If no cop's there, it's a very sad thing, but it happens all the time. If a bad cop's there, you're going to make this situation much, much worse. It'll be caught on camera, and we all pay a terrible price for it. So those of us who are motivated by love, what's the opposite of evil? Love. How do we fight evil? With love. You know what makes a great cop? Empathy, love. What if it was my child? What if that was my family? What if that was my spouse? That's what makes a great cop. That sense of empathy. That sense, and empathy is just another word for love. When we recognize, when we see people living in pain and despair, we say, that could be my family. That could be my city. That could be my community. And so we fight evil with love. And it's a love for our family. It's love for our way of life. It's a love for our God, our nation that can sustain us through these hours. Things are crazy bad. And pre 9/11, post Rodney King, we've gone way beyond that. It's far worse than that. This down cycle is orders of magnitude worse than anything we've ever seen before. It used to be that the firefighters could get plenty of people to apply. I teach fire service across America. They can't find 2 or 3 people to apply for every slot. And most of them can't pass. And it used to be when during the downswing, DNR, the Fish and Wildlife and the fish cops and the game officers, they didn't have any problems. Well, they are now.
Yeah.
Every public service job is dying. The recruiting is down, retention is down. We can't find anybody to do this job. So what do? Lower the standards? No.
Mhm.
No, but we fight back and we let the world know what's really wrong out there. And it's not the evil cops, it's not the evil new guns. It is the sick, twisted misrepresentation of the media. And it's time to get mad, and it's time to start a groundswell that starts pushing back against these idiots. And we got to go back to a time when we said, you may not tell our children that criminals are good guys. You may not tell our children that cops are bad guys. No civilization can survive that. We are in the middle of this desperate battle against the woke forces of academia who have declared their goal to deconstruct our nation. Deconstruct means destroy. And break it down to the component atoms. Their avowed goal is to destroy our nation and to build it up with them on top. So, folks, we're in a battle for the survival of our civilization, and we don't even realize it. And we got to hang in there with all our heart and all our might because we love our children. I'm 67 years old. It's my prayer I can do it for another 20 years. Every day I have the health. Every day somebody wants to hear what I got to say, I'm going to walk out that door and do it. Because I love my family, I love my God, I love my nation. I swore a solemn oath of justice for all from my youngest days. And that oath really means something to me and to all those cops out there that are fighting for us every day. So you believe in what you're doing. You are badged to the bone. You are right down to the cop, right down to the bone, cop to the bone. And that's a beautiful concept. And we got to sustain those. And here's the good news. Your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren will talk about you like we talk about Wyatt Earp. For you have manned the ramparts of a civilization in our darkest hour. You fought back against the tide of evil that was trying to destroy our way of life and break down our civilization. You and all the magnificent men and women who are listening, you believe in who you are. You believe in what you do. We need you. We desperately need you. And it's time to give 100% and to fight for what we love.
I mean, that is just so true.
That's
I mean, that's right to the core, and it really is
Yeah.
to the core of why we continue to do this here.
Love.
We worry about what's going to be left for my kids and their kids, and
Yeah.
you're right. You have to stay in that fight, and I feel like it's just this vicious cycle of villainizing the police, and then folks don't want to come do those public service jobs, and like you said, then they lower the standards, and you get the wrong people in them,
Yes.
and then that gives fuel to the villainization of that. It's
Boom.
it's just a terrible
It's a
cycle.
death spiral. It's a vicious death spiral.
And you're right. We have to push back.
Well, I think you hit on an excellent point too, that it's not limited to law enforcement, particularly traditional law
Yes.
enforcement.
Yeah.
Just speaking locally, we've seen that impact on fire and EMS. I retired from a non-traditional police agency, and we have what, 4 or 5 non-traditional agencies at the state level, specialized agencies like the Fish and Wildlife,
Fish and wildlife.
and they too have
Yeah.
seen that decline.
It's
And the pandemic has destroyed our work ethic. There are literally
Oh, man.
millions of people who are staying home getting paid to do nothing. Healthy Americans who are happy to stay home, get paid to do nothing. The big battle when we passed the last budget, the big battle was workfare. All the Republicans saying is, look, all these people on welfare, they got to do some work. We got to be held accountable to do some work. And the left is buying votes. All these people out there being paid to do nothing. You know how they're going to vote? They're buying their votes. And they're putting them on the dole. And then these are reliable, dependable votes for them. And it's insane, the broken borders. If those people came across our borders and voted Republican, the Pelosi and everybody else would be standing arm in arm to block them. But they think these people are going to come across the border and vote Democrat. And that's what it's all about. It's about winning control of our nation to move it in the direction they want it to go. And they've got this sick, twisted idea that our nation's fundamentally evil and fundamentally flawed. And I'll give you an angle on this too. It's really important. There is a biological need in every human being to be part of a larger group. One person alone in the jungle is cat food. 10 people with spears are the alpha predator anywhere on the planet. So our group is our nation. Well, the amazing achievement. We don't give our allegiance to the local gang. We don't give our allegiance. We give our allegiance to our nation. We say the Pledge of Allegiance. We're reinforcing and affirming that this is our group. We stand for the national anthem. We're reinforcing and affirming that this is our group. This is who we lean on. This is who we depend on. But if it's cool to be unpatriotic, if overpaid athletes dishonor the flag and dishonor the anthem, then who, if we've been taught our nation's fundamentally evil by our teachers, who will fill that gap? Who will be your group? And boom, the gangs will fill the gap in a blink of an eye. Gang membership has exploded. Every athlete who dishonors the flag and dishonors the anthem is a recruiter for the gangs. And gang membership has exploded, and the gangs become their nation. And that's scary, because when your nation tells you to kill people, you do. And it's World War II. Go to Germany, kill Nazis, Roger out. Millions of Americans move out and do what they're told to. The gangs are the nation tells them to kill a cop, Roger out, they do it. And so many of these cops killings are gang related. It's often it's the initiation ritual to join a gang to go kill a cop. And again, every place you see a dead cop, I'll show you many where they tried and failed. But this gang membership exploding, this teaching our children that our nation's fundamentally evil, then who will fill that gap? And it becomes the gangs. And it's a fundamental breakdown of our civilization that no civilization can endure. So we got to fight back every step of the way with love for our country, love for our God, love for our way of life. These are the things that can sustain us. And it begins with podcasts like this and the magnificent men and women who are listening to it. I'm such a huge fan of the podcast revolution. It is a true revolution. When I was a kid, we had 3 networks, maybe 1 or 2 newspapers in every city, and half a dozen national news, Time and Newsweek and Life. If you didn't get on one of those dozen media, your story was never heard. But today we bypass that barricade, and instead of getting a 5-minute soundbite, which is useless, we've got this in-depth hour of good information. And not only do we have the people presenting it, and I honor them, we have many, many people seeking it. And that's one of the good things happening out there. They're seeking deeper levels of knowledge. They're not content with a 5-minute soundbite. They're not even hardly watching the local news. They're out there digging for deeper knowledge. And this represents something very, very beautiful and good about our civilization.
No doubt. No doubt.
I think that's excellent. I couldn't agree more.
Uh,
Colonel, what do you say to those people? And I hear this from young people quite a bit. Those people that are well intentioned, that do have love in their heart, that are the intelligent, capable folks that we want in this profession, but go, I'm just not sticking my head into the lion's mouth.
It's hard, guys. There will be a backswing. 9/11 created the post-Rodney King era, which just came to a crash with 9/11. And there was a backswing in the opposite direction. I don't know what the backlash or when the backlash is going to be. I don't know what's coming down the road. But I tell you that we've got to try to convince people. You know what? And you know what's amazing? I give presentations. I've been in 4 cities in the last week. And cops come up and they get a book during the break and ask them what they do and how you like it. It is astounding how many cops say, I love my job. I love what I do. If people understood that, the world is full of people go to work every day, take a bite of a dirt sandwich to pay the bills, and go home. And what are they achieving at work? Nothing. Cops do more good in a week than most people will do in a year. They help more people. They touch more lives. They do more good. And it's intensely gratifying. And I think we got to help people understand that this is a vital force for good in our civilization. This is a force for love in our civilization. And that's what makes great cops, is that empathy, that love. And that's how we fight evils, with our love. So we've got to try to convince these people, but also, and here's kind of the fundamental dynamic. The only thing in the universe you can control is how you choose to respond. And if you quit, the bastards win. That's why I'm not going to quit. I'm not. And fighting with people like us is kind of like wrestling with a pig. Yeah. Everybody gets dirty. Everybody gets dirty, but the pig likes it. Yeah. So, come on. But if we quit, the bastards win. I'm not going to let those bastards win. It's the only thing in the universe you can control is yourself. Viktor Frankl in a Nazi death camp. Has there been any place in history that's more filled with despair than to be in a Nazi death camp? And Viktor Frankl, author of quite a few books, and he said, I realized the only thing in the universe these bastards can't control is how I choose to respond. And we talk about resiliency. We talk about people who do not get PTSD. And we talk about people walking out of Nazi death camps, emaciated and malnourished, and they do not have PTSD. And we hold people like Viktor Frankl up as an example. The only thing you can control is yourself. Look what you're doing. You have this wonderful podcast. Look at the lives you're touching. Look at the things you're accomplishing. You are using the time and the resources that God has given you to do good. You're not, sitting on the beach. You're out there contributing to the best of your ability. This is what we can all do. This is a model for us. So remember, you can't control what some idiot does. You can only control how you respond. And that's important, because if you lose your temper, you lose the game. You see, you don't lose your temper. You give it away. It's the only thing in the world you can control. Now, that's easy to say. It ain't so easy to do. But the only thing you can control is yourself. You don't lose your temper, you give it away. This is a game. And we win the game by not losing our temper, by not blowing our cool, by not letting that idiot bother us. The only thing you can't control what that idiot does. The only thing you can control is how you choose to respond. So I give you a little piece of cognitive behavioral therapy. Like I said, easy to say and so easy to do. As we get older, most of us get better at that. That's why most of us make better grandparents than we did parents. So I ask people, how many of y'all got kids? Huh? How many of y'all ever seen your parents with your kids and said, are you the same ones that raised me? No, they're not. No, they're not.
Very.
They're at least 20 years older, more mature. It's called maturity. We want to get it. We want maturity as quick as we can. And it begins by saying it is never, ever acceptable to lose your temper. Leadership is never about screaming at people. Nobody respects your temper tantrum. We've all had leaders that screamed at us and we despise them. Don't be that person. Leadership is never about temper tantrums and screaming. Leadership is about being the quiet professional. We talk about the laconic Spartan, the stoic Roman, the inscrutable samurai, the stiff upper lip Brit. And today, after 2 decades of war, we call it the quiet professional. And the thing we respect above all else is self-control. So I'll give you an angle on this now. A little piece of cognitive behavioral therapy that you can use. Like I said, controlling your temper is not all that easy, but there are tricks. I get hate mail from defund the police and Antifa that'll curl your hair. We get emails from these idiots, and what they're going to do to my family and so on and so forth. And folks, we got bad guys coming to the cop's house to murder their family. Every cop has people out there. Every cop has unhappy customers out there. So I can't control what these idiots do. All I can do is control how I choose to respond. So I've got some candy that I have, maybe once a week as the year go by. I get a batch at Christmas and a batch at my birthday, and I get one of those nasty grams. I get a piece of candy. I almost look forward to it. And you just see him say, "You evil bastard! What how evil you are!" And you get a chocolate covered cherry. Yeah. So who wins now? So I'm telling you this now. When you put something in your mouth, and you salivate, and you swallow, and you digest, that takes you from fight or flight to rest and digest. It pulls you from sympathetic to parasympathetic. Big swig of water, one of the best things you do. I tell people you're in a high-speed pursuit, you key the mic, you hear Mickey Mouse coming out of the radio, take a big swig of water. Key the mic. Fighter pilot comes to the radio from that point on. It's a powerful tool to pull you from fight or flight to rest and digest, sympathetic to parasympathetic. So I tell my cops, do this. I like Tootsie Rolls. You can use whatever you want, but Tootsie Rolls, individually wrapped, they stay clean. They're good in the cold, they're good in the heat. And have a little, and they remind me of Halloween candy, So have a little bag of Tootsie Rolls in your glove compartment. And you only get to have one when somebody's ugly. Some kid flips you the finger, somebody shouts at you or somebody disrespects you. You say, I could have a Tootsie Roll. And when you're fuming with anger and you're having trouble, put that thing in your mouth, start chewing and swallowing and watch as your body relaxes. And it goes from fight or flight to rest and digest and pulls you back to control. And over time, when something I say, hey, I could have a Tootsie Roll. One guy said, it happens so often, I'm using Smarties. He said, if I used Tootsie Rolls, I'd be fat. Now, there's a guy that's thinking, okay, he gets a Smartie. And somebody gives him the finger, somebody's disrespectful, but take what they meant to harm you and turn it into something that gives you pleasure. And that
So
is
basically, you're
actual
conditioning
positive.
yourself to have a positive response to
Boom,
negativity.
boom, exactly right. And remember, one thing universe you can control is how you choose to respond. And during the time that we've got together here, one of the things I'm hitting hard in all my presentations, we're in the middle of a global epidemic of sleep deprivation. It's a key factor in suicides. Do an online search for suicide and sleep deprivation, and boom, come right up. The best meta study in suicide says not only is sleep deprivation a key factor in suicide, it's the most remediable factor. If we gave a damn about suicides, which is one of the major kills of our kids, a major killer of our couples, suicide has exploded worldwide. And the new factor is this global epidemic of sleep deprivation, video games, online, all this crazy stuff. Netflix, the head of Netflix said their competitor is sleep. The corporate policy of Netflix is to steal your sleep. They don't care that they're killing people.
Wow.
They just want to sell their product. So
Wow.
sleep deprivation, key factor in suicide. And teen suicides, teenagers, 10, 11, 12-year-old, teenage girls' suicide rate has tripled per capita in just the last decade. I had a cop come up to me during a break, one of my presentations. He said, I had one of those teenagers. He said, she was a good girl. She was an A student. She said, Dad, it's embarrassing. You don't have to take my cell phone every night. Family policy, cell phone with a charger, and you go to bed. He said, you don't have to take my cell phone. You can trust me. He said, okay, I trust you. Take your cell phone. He said, a little while later, she took her life. He said, my little girl took her life. We never knew the hell she was living in until we looked at the text messages on her cell phone. Night after night of ceaseless, relentless, vicious bullying. And he can't just ignore that. We're not wired that way. He said it was heartrending to see her up all night long trying to defend herself, trying to find someone to stand up for her. He said, I understood my little girl was bullied to death. What I didn't understand until now, she was tormented and sleep deprived in front of my eyes, and I let it happen. He said, I can't ignore that text message in the middle of the night. How can I expect my children to? He said, the one thing on earth I could have done for my little girl was take her cell phone every night and let her turn off all the bad stuff in this world. So sleep deprivation is a key factor in suicides, is a key factor in traffic deaths. What are the number one and number two killers of our cops? Suicide and traffic death. Sleep deprivation is also a key factor in opiate overdoses. Now, stay with me. This is kind of crazy. Why opiates? Prescription opiates have always been there. Why are opiates and fentanyl and well, sleep deprivation creates chronic pain. You don't sleep. The tendons and muscles never fully relax. Doc, I heard all the time, give me a pill to fix. You don't need a pill. You need more sleep. Hey, you got to knock off the caffeine shortly after lunch that's stopping you from getting deep cycle sleep. So sleep deprivation, a key factor in suicide. It's a key factor in traffic deaths. Of course it is. You know, there's a reason why airline pilots and truck drivers required by law get enough sleep. It's a key factor in the opiate epidemic. And they don't care. They just want to steal your sleep. When you go to a suicide, I've lost a brother and two nephews to suicide. And in two cases, there was no note. There was nothing. And one of them, my nephew, he was 18. He lived at home. The new video game came out. He locked himself in his room with a pile of snacks and sodas. We're going to play the game. On the third day, he killed himself. But no, there's just nothing. Well, but we go back and say, was he sleep deprived? Oh, he was playing the new video game. Was she sleep deprived? Oh, she's on social media all night long. Was he sleep deprived? Oh, yeah. He binge watched TV shows night after night after night. That's all he talked about. You can look deeper into our suicides and start playing pin the tail on the donkey with his sleep deprivation. And the greatest gift you give yourself. And by the way, a book I recommend with all my heart is Why We Sleep. International bestseller. He's missed a few licks. I'm going to try to get him to write the foreword of my book on sleep. But folks, he also talked about the link between sleep deprivation and Alzheimer's. Irrefutable, overwhelming link between sleep deprivation and Alzheimer's. That should scare the hell out of all of us.
Wow.
People go, oh, I'll sleep when I'm dead. You have a decade of Alzheimer's first, you idiot. So real quick and dirty, let me give a couple of survival nuggets.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
There's just a couple of quick nuggets you can take home right now for your kids and yourself. First off, no electronic media in your kid's bedroom, period. No TV, no video game, nothing. They have got to go to the room and sleep. And little kids need like 11, 12 hours of sleep a day. Adults need at least 7 hours of sleep a day, minimum. So if something's getting in the way of your sleep, it is a pathology. It is a dysfunction. Whatever it is that's getting in the way of your sleep, you've got to get it under control. You're a cop, you're a sheepdog, you're a guardian, you're a warrior, whatever you want to call it, but you are somebody who's got control of themselves and their life and their body. If something's getting in the way of your sleep, it is a pathology. It's a dysfunction. Now, folks, if I give you one little nugget of info, it's just things you run with. There are two nuggets. Number one, our bodies are designed to sleep in complete darkness. I do a lot of work in the fire service, and they've always got the bunk room. And there's always somebody they call the dark Nazi. And the dark Nazi is the guy that spray paints the windows black from the inside. I tell them, guys, the dark Nazi's right. The dark Nazi's right. We're designed to sleep in total darkness. But my wife frowns on spray painting windows black from the inside. So I make it as dark as I can and combine it with a sleep mask. There's a sleep mask on Amazon with 84 84,000 reviews. 84,000 reviews for a sleep mask. And the one right behind it's got 64,000 reviews. That's how people feel about that sleep mask. If you start sleeping with that sleep mask, it will rock your world. You may not get one more minute. Strive for 7 hours of sleep minimum. Use the sleep mask. And one more thing, you must cut off the caffeine shortly after lunch. The half-life of caffeine in our body is 5 hours. The caffeine you took at 5 p.m. is at half strength when you go to bed at 10 p.m. And it's stopping you from deep cycle sleep. And that lack of deep cycle sleep is a key factor in Alzheimer's, and it's a key factor in chronic pain. You must shut off caffeine shortly after lunch, make sleep in total darkness, and try to get at least 7 hours of sleep minimum. Anything that gets in the way of your sleep is a pathology. And so as we love our life, as we love our nature, we love our way of life, we cannot let ourselves be worked into the dirt. If you're sleep deprived, you are not the parent you ought to be. You're not the spouse you ought to be. You're not the cop you ought to be. If you try to do this job sleep deprived, pace yourself for the long game. We need four-quarter players. We need seasoned players. And that's kind of the big trip, fast and dirty. But you're at the leading edge of saving lives and touching lives, my brothers. And you and all your listeners believe in who you are, believe in what you do.
Man, we appreciate it, and I'm definitely going to make sure my wife listens to that because she always gets after me about being in total darkness. She's like, "Oh, it's like a cave in here; it's so dark." And we go back. I'm like, "It's got to be. It needs to be." I'm the same way. It's got to be total
Or
darkness.
just wear that sleep mask. I mean,
Yeah,
that's an
yeah, that's
easy
might
slogan.
be the alternative.
And convince her to wear it. My grandson went off to college. He's now in the Army after 2 years at college. But what's the thing most likely to kill my grandson? Suicide, traffic deaths, opiate overdoses. What's the best gift I can give my grandson? A good night's sleep. He's heard my class. He's helped me in my class. I sent him off to college, and I gave him several different kinds of sleep masks. I said, find the one you like and use it. And a year later, hey, how's everything going? That's going great. You wearing are you getting enough sleep? Yes, sir. Using your sleep mask? Yes, sir. In fact, it got a little grody and went online and ordered another one. So that's the greatest gift we can give people is that good night's sleep. And if the way we do it is wear that sleep mask and convince your spouse to wear it. My wife wears one that I can't stand. It puts weight on the eyes. I can't stand that, but she likes that. Boom. And she's using that. My grandson used a different one. I use the one that 84,000 people wrote reviews for on Amazon. But just resolve that issue, you and your spouse, by just wearing that sleep mask. And that sidesteps the whole battle of the dark Nazi.
That's awesome. I'll
That's
definitely be doing that.
yeah,
Hurrah.
and good blackout curtains.
Yes.
Those two. I will say real quick, as I know we're going to wrap things up here. We've had you on for a little while. I definitely want to, we've had several of your books. I just got your recent book on hunting.
Hurrah.
A great addition to the lineup. It really is. So about halfway through it, so I'm working through it. It's going to be my, before bed as I try to read a little bit instead of the TV. But
Well, Denny, can I talk a little bit about that just real
oh no,
quickly?
that would be great. I'd love
Let's
you
do
to.
another show sometime and talk about on hunting.
Man, that would be
Because
great.
I believe for many reasons, hunting is the single best way to prepare for a deadly force incident. Many reasons.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I
And
think
it's
we're going to hold you to that.
we're
No,
going
I
to go
would love to,
great.
like I said, because I'm halfway through it now, so I'd love to
Yeah.
to get it,
Yeah.
cover to cover and then get you back on and really discuss it. I just think it's such a
Yeah.
great addition to all the books you've put out.
Yes.
And the one last one I would I want to throw out there that I want to thank you for is the Bulletproof Marriage.
I'm so glad.
We had a short story long. We had a rough time in my marriage, and we had a rough go at a certain point, and we actually, I grabbed a copy of that and we went through it together, and it was really awesome.
Thanks,
So I
Denny.
recommend that to every officer that I know all the time. So
That is so
thank you
cool.
for putting that together. It really was
Well,
great.
can I share with you guys something really
Yes.
cool that's happened in my life? Ukraine is in a desperate battle, like nothing we've seen since World War II in Europe. They're in the trenches, they're fighting and dying. And all the military, the Canadians and the Americans, said, you guys need Grossman's books on killing on combat. They fast forwarded the Ukrainian translation on killing on combat, and the U.S. Embassy paid for 1,000 copies of On Combat to be distributed to Ukrainian troops. I mean, that is so mega cool.
That
But
is.
I just sent an email to the publisher today saying, hey, let's take that the next step and get On Spiritual Combat, Christian Book Award finalist, and Bulletproof Marriage, which was also a Christian Book Award finalist the year it came out. And so just so you know that we're pinging the idea of getting that in the hands of the folks in Ukraine. And I'm so glad that book was a service to you and your spouse. Praise God. That's just a beautiful
Absolutely.
thing.
I'm very blessed. Thank you
Boy,
so much.
Yeah, and that's also just wonderful to hear that the book is going overseas and contributing like that. That just wonderful.
Yes, as a reader of both of those, I think that's huge for them over there. So, but Colonel, thank you so much.
my pleasure, guys.
It's
God
been
bless
an
you.
honor.
God
It
bless
has
all
been
the
a
men and women listening, and God bless America.
God bless you, Colonel. Thank you
Boy,
again. Wow.
I think we could have done that for 2-3 hours and
Oh,
still have him back.
man, we could have, like I said, and having heard him at the Bulletproof Mind seminar, it's so much information. He's such a wealth of knowledge and makes so many great points, and he has everything to back it up. He's got the research, the studies to back up what he's talking about. It's just outstanding, and I hope folks really listen to this episode. He is just fantastic.
I think he is providing an essential bit of knowledge and insight that, frankly, all of us need, but our profession desperately needs.
Oh, I know, absolutely, absolutely. And I was, so appreciative of how complimentary he was to what we're doing. He's just it's motivating me. I'm like, all right, let's go. Let's
That
keep these things cranking. Let's go. He does a masterful job of keeping you in the game, almost like a coach.
Oh, very much, very much, and just the compliments he gave us and just podcasting in general. I mean, I'm
Yeah, yeah. No, that was
that made my day.
Oh, it really did. I mean, I'm totally psyched, and we will definitely be reaching out to get him back on to talk about his most recent book on hunting. So we'll have him back on. That's going to be great. So looking forward to that. Just awesome,
It comes from a place of just real genuineness.
Yes.
It comes from the heart.
Yes, I mean he truly believes in what he does. He truly believes in the jobs of service, our service members, our first responders, and it's as like he said, to fight evil is love, and he's doing that through love, which is just amazing. So we're so thankful, and I tell you, if you haven't read any of his books, please get them. On Killing, on Combat, both great. I've just started getting into on hunting, and it's fantastic. Bulletproof Marriage. Me and my spouse benefited greatly from that book. Definitely Bulletproof Mind. Al, they're just great. They definitely, if you're listening to this podcast, you need to read these books. If you haven't, if you have the opportunity to attend his seminar, please do it.
Yeah, and if you take nothing else from today, it's that line that the opposite of evil is love, and we do it for love.
Absolutely, Al. That's a really good point. I think you're right.
You could ignore everything else. You shouldn't.
No.
But you could. And if you just take that away, that's probably the most important part.
And he said it several times. I think there's a reasoning behind that.
Conditioned to the negative. We're conditioned
Yes.
to the gallows humor and the probably not the most healthy coping mechanisms.
Right.
And he's pushing back on that. I think is good.
What a great episode. I'm so psyched for this one. I just am.
I can't wait for this one to drop.
Oh, man. Yeah. And I can't wait to have him on again. Just awesome, Al. But, Al, that's going to wrap us up. I think we're done.
I think we are. This one's in the can.
It is. And in the meantime, where can they find us?
They can find us on Facebook at Badge to the Bone. They can also find us at badgetothebone.com.
Also, shoot us an email. We are badgetothebone@gmail.com. But until then, be safe.
And be well.
It ain't no mistake.